To say the least, it feels odd to be standing here on the one-year anniversary of Laura talking about a hurricane in the Gulf that's coming. But that's what we've prepared for. As we look ahead, and we're going to cover in the briefing today, I think a lot of the folks already know from tracking this that the southwest Louisiana area is not in the direct impact of the hurricane as forecasted now. However, we are definitely in the tropical storm warning area, and there will be some impacts in our area based on the current expected track. So we want to hear today, of course, first from the National Weather Service. As always, we appreciate them being here. And I'll ask in a moment Andy Patrick to come forward. We will then discuss some of the actions taken and for the public, which we'll get into in a little detail. But let's hear the current status and forecast for Hurricane Ida. Andy Patrick with the local National Weather Service office in Lake Charles.
Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon. Hurricane Ida became a hurricane early this afternoon as it's about to approach the western part of Cuba. Now, the latest forecast trends for Ida looks like it's going to emerge off of Cuba later this evening, and really, quite frankly, nothing's going to stand in its way from intensifying, we think, very significantly over the next 36 hours. Right now, the projected landfall for Ida, potentially as a major hurricane, looks like it's going to be sometime around late Sunday night across south central Louisiana. That's our best forecast right now. Could shift or wobble a few miles east or west, but we are expecting it to continue to move pretty quickly. This is not expected to be a slow-moving type hurricane, likely to be well into Louisiana during the day Monday and likely move rapidly northeast Monday night into Tuesday. So as far as Calcasieu Parish, southwest Louisiana, the impacts, as Brian mentioned, we're going to be mainly in the tropical storm varieties. What does that mean? From a wind perspective, we're expecting 30 to potentially 60-mile-per-hour winds across the area. With the further west you are, you're going to be closer to that 30 number. Further east you are, potentially 60 miles per hour. And we're expecting those winds to begin that strong probably around Sunday night after sunset, and likely linger probably into the morning hours on Monday. And we think it's going to get well windy or breezy. We think overall the winds will likely diminish Monday afternoon. We're not going to see any storm surge impacts right now. We think the flow is going to be mainly out offshore, so any sort of storm surge will likely be shifted. The more significant storm surge will likely be across parts of south central and southeast Louisiana. Rainfall, it's going to be very difficult to really pinpoint the rainfall on the western side of this system as opposed to the eastern side. Right now we're thinking about 1 to 3 inches with some potential rain bands spilling over into southwest Louisiana. Likely could start as early as Sunday and really potentially continue as long as Ida moves is in the vicinity of Louisiana. So we expect conditions to start improving certainly later in the day Monday into Monday night as well. So those are our basic impacts we're expecting. Ida is going to be a very significant hurricane, we think, for south central and southeast Louisiana. They're going to experience the brunt of the storm surge, flooding, and wind impacts. And we really think that it could certainly be very significant, certainly very could be potentially epic, as we think possibly a Category 4 at landfall. So, any questions? Okay, Brian?
Thank you, Andy. So the situation, as we met today, and I want to remind the folks, I do this each time, but it's important to remember, Calcasieu Parish has an executive policy group that meets in situations like threat of a hurricane. And this group met this morning and again this afternoon. It consists of the police jury president here in Calcasieu, who's going to come up and speak in a moment, Brian Abshire, the 6 mayors of the municipalities in the parish, and the Sheriff Mancuso. And we also have Carl Brookhouse, Calcasieu Parish School Superintendent, with us, which is very critical because what happens at schools, of course, affects a lot of folks. And there's an overriding theme in the discussions today. You have both the situation of the storm itself, which in a normal case, not to make light of tropical storm winds, but this is obviously, the forecast is a lot less intense for our area than east of us. However, consider Hurricane Laura, Delta, and the other disasters and what they've done to the physical infrastructure in this parish, and we are more vulnerable. So that goes into the discussion of decisions made by this group. So what we want to communicate today, we'll do it through a couple of speakers, and we're talking to two main audiences. The first is the general population of Calcasieu Parish, who have the transportation resources, vehicles, if they choose, that may wish to evacuate. We'll get into some of that. And then separately, there is a transportation plan we've had in place for many years, which Dick Grimion will discuss briefly, for those who may wish to evacuate but need transportation assistance. So that's the two groups. But I'd like to start first with the general population, and I'll ask Brian Abshire, Calcasieu Parish Police Street President, to come forward with the details of that information. He'll be followed by Dick Grimion, who can come up after, and if it's okay with the media folks here, after both of those speak, we can take questions.
Thank you, Brian. As we all know too well what we've been through this past year, preparation is critical for the safety of the public. Earlier today, I signed a proclamation of a state of emergency for Calcasieu Parish, and after hearing the latest information from the National Weather Service and in consultation with area mayors, the sheriff, and other emergency officials, I've signed an executive order imposing a voluntary evacuation for Calcasieu Parish effective today. I urge our residents to stay up to date on the progress of Hurricane Ida. Stay strong, stay positive as we work through this storm on the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Laura. We are no doubt facing challenges again, but know that your elected officials are diligently working behind the scenes to keep us all safe. Thank you very much.
As Brian mentioned, there's another part to our emergency action today, and that is to provide a transportation ability for people who either don't have reliable transportation or have no transportation. We know that many people are still out of their home or living in homes with damaged roofs or windows or other things. We would not normally call attention to a storm of this nature if we were on a normal year, but this is, everyone knows, has not been a normal year. So to that end, we will be starting the transportation of evacuees who would like to leave at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that will extend till 6 p.m. tomorrow night. The methodology will be the same as we used for Hurricane Laura. The City of Lake Charles transit system will run their regular routes. People who wish to leave should be standing at the regular bus stops. They will be picked up by the city and brought out to Burton Coliseum for transportation to outside the parish. For people who do not live in the City of Lake Charles, the Calcasieu Parish transit system will be offering rides. They have several locations. Those will be listed on our in a press release, as well as posted to our social media and other outlets that we have. Basically, the process is the same. We'll have a location for people to go to and wait for the bus. The buses will run these routes hourly. If you have special considerations, call 911. If you have special considerations, call 211 for further information. Some might ask why we do not open shelters in Calcasieu Parish for a hurricane. The answer is simple. We still have about 6 weeks of hurricane season left. If we were to try to house a number of people in a shelter, another hurricane came our way, it would cause a great difficulty to re-evacuate those folks out. One final safety tip I want to mention, even with a tropical storm, you can expect that there are going to be power outages. That has led to, in the recovery of Laura, led to several deaths through carbon monoxide poisoning. So we want people to remember any wire that's down should be treated as a live wire. If you're going to use a generator, please follow the safety rules and preferably have a professional install that. And I know this is an issue that the sheriff has spoken about many times, and he may comment on that today. Brian?
Any questions on either speaker?
If you can, maybe list just a few of the bus stops out in the parish where you guys will be stopping, and also what, if anything, would you say to those from the east part of the state who perhaps are planning to come over here to seek refuge?
Well, I'll take the second question first. Really, our message to them is we're not a sheltering parish. We would hope that they would not come here with the expectation of a shelter, because we have the same problem whether you're from Calcasieu Parish or whether you're from any other parts of the state. So, and I'll just go through the list quickly. Bell City Fire Station, DeQuincy southeast corner of Highway 27 and LA 12, Carlos at the Stein Lumber parking lot, Iowa High School, Moss Bluff Tractor Supply, Starks VFW, Kroger parking lot in Sulphur, in Vinton, Love's Truck Stop, and Westlake at the Westlake Recreation Center. Thank you.
We want to hear from a couple of our local elected officials. First, from Lake Charles Mayor Nick Hunter.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. I've been thinking a lot over the last couple weeks what I would be saying on the anniversary of Laura, and kind of what the mood would be, and what some of the commentary would be. And I did not think that we would be standing here today talking about evacuating for another hurricane, or the possibility of such. The PTSD that's in this community is very real, and it's understandable. I know that people are very frustrated right now, very emotional. And with everything we've been through over the last year, I get it. I'm a mayor, but I'm also a dad and a husband, so I understand those emotions, and they're very real, and they're very widespread, and it's okay to feel that way. However, we do have to worry about our families. We do have to protect our families, have to protect human life, and I can tell you, as governmental employees, we are showing up to work, and we know that we have a job to do. And everyone out there listening right now has a job to do as well, and that's to take care of you and your family. And the term voluntary evacuation is certainly a lesser tier than a mandatory evacuation, but everyone out there has to make some very personal and sometimes hard decisions, and you're going to have to make those with your family. I can tell you that I'm going to be making those decisions with my wife and my family this evening when I get home. They're not easy, but they are decisions that we have to make. I encourage you to take this seriously. With all that we've been through over the last year, unfortunately, there's a lot of structures in this community that are compromised. There's some homes that people might be living in that are not today what they were pre-Laura. There's a lot of probably more individuals living in RVs and mobile homes, and they need to take this seriously. So everyone's got to make that very personal decision based on your own circumstances. I encourage you to visit getagameplan.org. It is so much better to be overprepared than underprepared. I am very proud of as I always am, I'm very proud of the synergy and in the cooperation, the coordination of local officials right now. Local agencies are working together. Unfortunately, we have way too much experience at what we're going through right now. The evacuation options for Lake Charles that Dick Grimion described are important to many of our citizens. I can tell you that when we discuss even a voluntary evacuation, one of the first things that comes to our mind is we understand that not everyone has the ability to jump in a vehicle, put gas in it, head out of town, get a hotel room. We understand that. And we also know that there's a lot of people in this community who are worried about their families right now, who maybe don't have money in the bank to make that happen. We're giving you an option. We are giving you an option, but tomorrow is really your opportunity. Tomorrow is your window, and if you're concerned about the safety of you and your family, take that opportunity tomorrow. I understand that a lot of people are trying to possibly compare what is happening right now to what we went through in Laura and Delta. Please know that every storm has its own DNA. That can be a dangerous thing to try and say, well, this happened with Laura or this happened with Delta, so this must be happening with Ida. It's a very dangerous thing to try and compare and say that because something else happened a year ago or 16 years ago with Rita, that's what's going to happen today. Every storm has its own DNA. I will say that for Laura and Delta, I am proud of the evacuation opportunities that we provided, and I firmly believe that we gave everyone an opportunity to get out of this community who was willing to leave. And that's what we want to try to do tomorrow. If you want to get out of this community, tomorrow is your opportunity to do it. For the City of Lake Charles, again, we're encouraging people, please bring stuff in that might be out in your yard, could be children's toys, trash cans, or a big one. Bring those items in and secure them around your home. And lastly, the Mayor's Action Line is 491-1346. We will have individuals manning that tomorrow. And also 211 is a number that we use throughout the year and encourage people, if you have any other needs or access to resources, dial 211. Those are the end of my remarks, unless there are any questions.
This may be a question for Dick, but I was basically,
One second. He's got another one.
Sorry. That's okay. Who should strongly consider about the voluntary evacuation as opposed to someone who is, living in a fortress and knows how to do everything mechanical from, generators to whatever?
I probably will defer to Dick on that. And specifically, what type of structure are you staying in? I think might be a beneficial answer to that question. Any other questions that are directed towards me? Thank you.
Teresa, I think the answer to your question is several-fold, really. You can drive right here on Ryan Street and see buildings with blue roofs on them, which indicates the roof has not been repaired. We have hundreds, actually we have thousands of people now who are living in mobile homes and travel trailers. If those mobile homes or travel trailers are not secured properly, then even the 40 to 60 mile an hour winds we're talking about potentially for this storm could affect some of those structures. And of course, any structure that you're living in could be compromised, would be advisable to find another place to stay. It's going to be for a few hours, but I think it might be worth it if your structure is compromised.
Dick, why don't you go ahead and introduce?
Next, we'll have Sheriff Tony Mancuso.
I want to talk about that too a little bit, because it is our, the public's personal safety is why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. And we've talked about this and we mulled over this several times today. If we were in 2020 on August 26th, a couple days before or a day before the storm, we had not had any of this damage, we had not had an ice storm, we had not had flooding, we had not had Delta, we had not had Laura, we may do a shelter in place because structures were not compromised. We're just not in that position right now. And so when you talk about it's how you feel. Do you feel safe? And I know we've talked about it. If your trailer is not secured, if you're living in a travel trailer in front of your home and it's not tied down, and some are and some aren't. Some people have done that extra work and tied them down. Then you might want to consider that you probably need to look for shelter in that particular case. So I'm trying to give you examples of what we would consider. We can't make that decision for you. Under normal circumstances, we would probably just say shelter in place, and we're going to have some high winds, some power outage, and we will, pick up the pieces the next day, which would probably be minor in the sense of a normal circumstances, but we're not in those normal circumstances. So, we've just taken some blows over the last year and a half, and we're going to have to take those into considerations when we make our decisions. So that's the best. We don't want to do that. We never try to do that, but we felt like this was in the best interests of many people in our community to at least look, all we can do is feed them that information and tell them what we feel. I think the Weather Bureau has told us, and look, yes, the eastern side of the parish may get stronger winds than the western side of the parish. It literally could be that divided. But we have to take the parish as a whole and those things into consideration. So we've done that, and this is what we've come up with. So in that sense, that's how we're doing this. Prisoners, I want to talk about that because I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about prisoners that we have all over the state. There is one prisoner from Calcasieu Parish that is south of Interstate 10 in Lafourche Parish, and he actually has charges in Lafourche Parish also, so they are, whatever plan they have, he will follow their plan. The rest of our prisoners are all north of the interstate, and we've talked with those wardens and those correctional facilities, and they feel like they're safe and in out of harm's way for this particular storm. They can call our office if they have questions, but we do not have to evacuate or deal with any prisoner issues at this time, nor does anybody south of us, because the prisoners that we have housed in other locations are not housed in any of these direct hit locations. I want to touch again, I know Dick talked about it, carbon monoxide poisons. I think Dr. Kavanaugh told us, and I know Dr. Welke stressed on it, we had more deaths. I think most of our deaths that were storm related were carbon monoxide issues, if not all of them. So, we're probably going to have some power outages tomorrow in Calcasieu Parish. Sunday night, late Sunday evening, Monday morning, we're probably going to have some power outages. To what extent, I don't think that can be determined. I think it's going to be just a normal bad weather event that lasts for, I think, 12 to 18 hours is the extent for us, and some of that could be worse than others. But you're talking about trees that have again already been compromised that could fall onto a power line. And in other words, we're not going to have the mass destruction I think we had for Laura or Delta. It's going to be more sporadic outages from down power lines, from trees and wind and things like that. So we're going to have to deal with that, but that means people are going to get those generators out, and they need to be extra cautious with that, making sure they're not under porches and in garages and in enclosed places where this could harm people. And then let me end by talking about we're going to make sure Calcasieu Parish is safe. Your law enforcement agencies, your police and fire, your EMS, we have had plans. They work. We have a system in place, and we're going to make sure that we ensure your safety is the utmost first thing that we are concerned about. As soon as this passes and we're safe, we also have teams ready to be deployed. We've been on the phone with the Sheriff's Association task force. We are ready to deploy and have teams ready to deploy outside of Calcasieu Parish to go give assistance just like they gave to us when we were in need. So that's the preparation that we've made. We've made preparations here at home to make sure we do everything here first to ensure the safety of the men and women and the families that live here in Calcasieu Parish. As soon as that threat is over with us, and we're secure and we're safe, we will be deploying people for help on the east side of the parish to help those in need that need help. So I think that's it. If I covered everything that you asked me to do, and I think we talked about prisoners, so is there anybody that has any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff. Thank you so much. That concludes our speakers for today. We will communicate any updates primarily through our Office of Emergency Preparedness. If there are any changes in the weather forecast, we strongly encourage everybody to follow their normal local outlets for where they get information. Please make sure you check that it's official information and stay safe.